Thanks, Adam. Yes, I just want to share with you today some of the research and learnings I've sort of investigated over the years in my time at AIS, working with elite middle distance and distance runners and race walkers. And altitude part has been a big part of my program going forward to success of the athletes. So just a bit of background. So altitude training really became the forefront of our sort of attention after the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City. Performance of the distance events really struggled, and there was a lot of research on the back of this to try and prepare for competition at altitude. And some of the findings show that the benefits you get from altitude training, the mechanisms of adaptation in the body, transfer to better sea level performance, so increase in red cell mass, better economy, better muscle buffering. So I'm just going to go through some practical examples and how I sort of use this information in prescribing programs for athletes. So the theory behind altitude training, so if you have a look at this figure, I don't know if you can see it too well, but as we go up higher altitudes, the barometric pressure reduces, and with this, for every given portion of air, there's less molecules of oxygen. So there's a lot more oxygen content in the air, and basically the muscles require oxygen to produce energy. So as VO2 max is reduced, the body responds to this by a series of adaptations. So I won't go into all the details, but there's I think Julia touched on it, it's called HIF1 alpha. It's a molecule in the body that's responsible for a whole host of transcription factors to produce EPO, vascular regulation, glucose transport mechanisms. So there's a lot of mechanisms, but only is turned on at low oxygen. So basically, when you're at high enough altitudes, this molecule becomes active and it starts having downstream pathways in the body. The other thing to know is that it's got a very short half-life, so as soon as you return back to the normal altitude, basically the pathways shut off and you stop producing the protein. So I'll talk a little bit about this, but all altitude isn't the same. So spending a lot of time at altitude is necessary for a lot of these adaptations. So going into a hypoxic room for 30 minutes once a week isn't going to get the same adaptations as 3 or 4 weeks up at 2,000 metres. So yeah, this is basically showing that there's a lot of hosts. So the most common one that we know about is the EPO pathway. So basically when there's less oxygen in the air, our body turns on the HIF1 alpha, which sends messages to the body to produce more EPO, which creates more red blood cells. So we can carry more oxygen around the body in the limited capacity of hypoxia. We also can improve regulation of the cardiovascular system and transport oxygen transport in the muscles, and then there's anaerobic pathways as well, so becoming better at tolerating lactic acid, because when there's less oxygen, the anaerobic pathways turn on a lot more. So even during low intensity exercise, you're producing the anaerobic system more, so you become better at dealing with some of these pathways. Right, so types of hypoxia. So what we generally think of altitude is going up to the mountain. So Craig talked a little bit about going up Falls Creek. That's been a tradition over the last few decades with our distance runners, about 1,600 metres. Parish is a place that I go to a lot, about 1,800 metres, or we go internationally above 2,000 metres. So a lot of the research is done at altitudes around 2,000 to 3,000 metres. We haven't really got in Australia. So what happened sort of in the 90s and 2000 was a process called live high, train low. So initially it was set up in the US where people were based at 2,000 metres, 2,500, 1,000 metres, and they came down for all their hard training at about 1,000 metres altitude. So still a little bit of altitude, but trying to get the quality of training. So what we did is we developed some simulated techniques to sleep at altitude, but spend the rest of the day training at the lower altitude. So I'll talk a little bit about the live high, train low. The other methods that are becoming very popular in our gyms and sports industry is hypoxic rooms. So basically getting the room to a low oxygen and trying to train at altitude. So the only thing with this method is, so that's training. So intermittent hypoxia is even further removed. So basically it's wearing a mask or breathing low oxygen air out of a bag in a closed circuit environment and just trying to get adaptations from 5 minutes of really high altitude breathing, so like 4,000 to 6,000 metres, just for a short period of time, so about an hour, so 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off. Not really much positive sort of performance-based research just because of the time of it, so basically it's just not enough time for the body to produce these hormones responsible for adaptation. In IHT, so a lot of the gyms are promoting altitude training and improving hemoglobin mass by just exercise at altitude, so definitely does have some scope to be used, but it's not the same as being up at altitude 24/7 or more than half the day as in live high train mode. So just trying to differentiate that not all altitude is the same, so doing 1 week of training altitude is not the same as 3 to 4 weeks, so just clarify that. So this is some of the experiences I've had through my career, so I've been to many places around the world, been involved with lots of different athletes, so I've got down the bottom there, preparation for a long distance mountain running event where we did some high altitude preparation for competition at altitude. We've got Sierra Nevada in Spain, Pontremont in France, Flagstaff in the US, and basically a number of studies we did at the AIS where we utilised the altitude house to try and improve performance. So back in the early days, so basically some of the pioneers in altitude training research were Alan Hahn, Chris Gore and Dick Telford. So when I started my PhD, these guys were sort of delving into some of the more, I suppose, novel ways of using altitude training in Australia. So a lot of the research was suggesting you had to be higher than Australia had to provide in altitude training. So they devised a system where we had a big tank of liquid nitrogen, and basically vaporised this nitrogen, had a mixing chamber with room air, and we created a mixture of gas that was lower in oxygen. That was pumped into these rooms, so we sectioned off part of our physiology lab, we put in a bunch of beds, and we created an environment where the athletes could simulate altitudes from 2,000 to 3,000 metres. And we were trying out different methods to try and improve performance with live high train load. So the initial studies, we usually utilised about 8 to 10 hours a night, and that was basically the time that athletes would sleep. So basically they would just have dinner normally, come into the altitude house, sleep, wake up, train, and then be awake for the day. So 2 to 4 weeks was the sort of protocol we used, and either 5 days in, 2 days out, or the full 7 days in. And we were seeing quite good improvements in events from sort of the 400 right up to the 5K. But these benefits were sort of not really related to red cell changes, so it was more muscle buffering, running economy. During my PhD, I did a study using the lead atlas AIS where we had 3 groups. One group did 20 days in the altitude house, spending 8 to 10 hours a day. One group went up to Falls Creek, where they spent 3 weeks at altitude, so the same time frame, 20 days. And one group stayed in Canberra, just training for the 3 weeks with no altitude exposure. And we measured hemoglobin mass, VO2 max and running economy, and our biggest changes were reducing the oxygen cost of running at a given speed. So this is pooled data across 14, 16, 18 kilometres an hour, and it's the oxygen consumption required to run at those speeds. So obviously if you're using less oxygen, you're more efficient, you're conserving your energy, and should relate to better performance. So the only group that had significant improvements in running economy was a group in the live high train mode, and they were sleeping at altitudes of 2,500 to 3,000 metres. No real change in the group up at Falls Creek, and no real change in the control group. The other thing we saw with some of these early studies was 3 of our guys ran lifetime best performances they never achieved again after a block of altitude training in the house. So you saw last night what a 27:50 run looks like. We had 3 guys in one race who ran that same time, so 27:49, 27:50 and 27:54, and this was off the back of our 20-day exposure to live high train low. So there was something definitely not inhibiting performance, something that I really wanted to investigate further. So natural altitude, basically the one, I suppose, drawback of live high train low is some of the muscle adaptations you get from training in hypoxia. I think they're quite important. So we wanted to also investigate the use of our training environments that athletes are using every year. So we devised a study where we had a bit of a prelude in the altitude chamber to try and increase our capacities, and then we had a series of camps where we went up to Charlotte Pass 50 days in the altitude house, and then we had a series of 7-day camps during the competition period, where we trained and race-specific work at Perisher. So all our high-intensity sessions were done down at Jindabyne at 1,000 metres. We were living up at 1,800 metres doing all our low-intensity, moderate-intensity running. And basically the graph is set up with their PB coming into the camp as 0, so you can see that first dot, and that's all their performances of the 7 subjects during that period. You can see most of them are having 1-4% improvements consistently in the performance level. Some of the athletes in that study, so this was a 2004-5 period, Lisa Corrigan went from like a 4:20 runner to a 4:05 runner, broke the national record over a mile. Michael Shelley, before his marathon days, was a 1,500 metre runner. He ran 3:39 at the national championship during this period. Corey Tucker, high 3:40 runner, 2005, ran a series of times in the low 3:40s and 3:38. So we were confident that this preparation period was aiding to performances in these athletes. So Brent's talked a little bit about some of the work we did with the race walkers. So 2006, the one aspect of that study I didn't mention was by going 50 nights instead of 20, we did start seeing some increases in VO2 max and hemoglobin mass. So even by spending 8 hours a night, by extending that time at altitude, we were seeing some of those hormones being produced to drive some of these adaptations. So we did another study where cyclists, where they tried to spend 14 hours a night in our makeshift altitude house, which was pretty hard, but we also saw some increases in hemoglobin mass by spending more time. So it seemed like 8 hours a night for 3 weeks wasn't enough, but if we extended that twice the length all the time at altitude, we were starting to see some of these hematological increases. So 2006 we had our whole new sports science lab built, and as part of that we spec'd out a 5-bedroom altitude house which is still in operation. So each of the rooms had 2 rooms individually operated, so we could set at any altitude we wanted, and we were trying to get the athletes to spend more than half the day at altitude. So I'll just go through a few of the studies that we did during that period, and some of them were actually with the race walkers. So we tried to set up a placebo-nocebo study. So because we could individually operate the rooms, we wanted to have 2 groups in the altitude house, but only 1 getting altitude. So we wanted to try and mitigate, to a sense, the placebo effect of altitude. Like, we weren't totally successful. I think when you're at altitude, you sort of know, and some of these athletes have done a bit of altitude training before, so we didn't totally fool them, but the protocol was we did a bunch of physiological and performance testing before, 3 weeks of 14 hours a day, so we said they had to do 14 hours every day in the altitude house. So the way we did this was, that was their house during the time. After training, they would go and have breakfast in the altitude house and spend time doing other things. So we were successful in doing that. The 3 groups at the top, so the one in red is the group who were receiving altitude. So the altitude group, they were the only ones who increased hemoglobin mass, and it was a progressive increase through the 3-week period. So about a 4% increase by 3 weeks of altitude training. So VO2 max increased the most in the altitude group, had a small increase in the placebo group, so some training camp effect happening there, and no real change in the nocebo control group. Interesting enough though, we did a 10-minute test. So the test was 10 minutes cover as much distance as you can, so the athletes could adjust the speed up or down. And all athletes had a good increase in this test. So we had, I suppose that shows the nature of a really good training camp. We getting athletes together, training hard together. So, but the only group who had the physiological adaptations really were the group at altitude. So this, as Brent sort of alluded to, formed our preparation for the race walkers going into the Beijing Olympics. So, like he said, we had 21 days, a bit of time to absorb, and then another 14 days. Finished 3 days prior to departure and 3 weeks prior to competition. So a lot of the literature suggests that about 21 days is like the decay of hemoglobin mass increase from altitude. So we're within that period to still benefit from the adaptations. Another thing, so a lot of, I suppose, the shorter distance events do use altitude. So we did a study back in about 2009, 2010, where we tried to look at the effectiveness of 400-metre runners. So we had some of our top male 400-metre runners, Tristan Thomas, Chris True, Sean Rose, so a lot of 45, just over, just under type runners, so the top ones in Australia. We spent 3 weeks in the altitude house using our of supposed ideal protocol, spending more than half the day at altitude, and we did some testing. So we did, some of you have had sort of 400, 800, it's called a maximal anaerobic capacity, or maximum aerobic MAOD, oxygen deficit test. So what we do is we do a 4x4 incremental test to work out their aerobic capacity, and then we do a all-out test at 24 k's an hour or 21 k's an hour, and we work out what the aerobic contribution is, and we estimate what the anaerobic contribution is. We also did a specific track session devised by the coaches, so it was 2x200 flat out with a minute recovery, twice through, with 15 minutes between sets. And what we saw was a 5% increase in hemoglobin mass. You can see pretty much every athlete's increased to different degrees, 2% up to about 9%. We saw a tendency to be better running economy, so 1 to 2% improvement. VO2 max was variable, but no real sort of change across the group. We increased anaerobic capacity by about 4%, and the mean performance of the 2x2 200 test improved by about 3%. Interesting in this test, they were a lot faster in the first 3 reps, so they were able to set it up a lot better. And although they lost a little bit in the last set, overall they were a lot better, particularly in the first 400 of the set. So this shows that we're having some influence on the anaerobic buffering and capabilities of these 400 metre runners, as well as increasing the aerobic capacity. So my sort of advice would be, if they've got time and can program it in, like altitude training can be very beneficial to these type of athletes. So another one of our PhD students wanted to have a look at what is the reproducibility within the same athlete group. So we got a group of distance runners, so athletes at the AIS and across Australia were invited to participate. We did 2 blocks in the altitude house, so both 3 weeks, 14 hours a day. We did weekly measures of hemoglobin mass to see what the progression is. We did 4.5k time trials, and that's just the nature of where we had it. The track was getting relayed at the time, so we had a road circuit that we set up, and I think 3 laps of that was 4.5k. So that was our time trial pre and post, and then we had a 4 to 5 week washout, which we tried to get rid of all the adaptations and see if we could produce the same effects again. So the results showed that the first camp, so the altitude group is at the top, the control group at the bottom. We had a good sort of 1% improvement in time trial performance during the first camp, which went along with about our sort of standard 4 to 5% increase in hemoglobin mass. And in the second camp, we had no change in time trial ability in either the group. And our sort of theory behind this was the washout period just wasn't enough time for them to recover from the hard training that they got from the first altitude camp, and they came in a little bit fatigued. A few athletes got sick during the period, didn't change hemoglobin mass, and that sort of culminated into no change in time trial. So the recommendation we have for this is if you're doing multiple altitude exposures of 3 weeks or 4 weeks, you probably need a long period just to absorb it, get some training benefits before the next one. The other thing we learned from this and other studies, so we had another PhD student doing a lot of work with cycling, and she was sort of looking at what was going on with why some athletes would increase hemoglobin mass, why some wouldn't, and we sort of did some similar things with the runners. And basically, there's a bunch of things that we sort of found that were inhibiting responses. So iron, critical for producing hemoglobin. So you have, and runners are notoriously susceptible for low iron. So basically, you're going in the altitude house and you're not taking supplemental iron. Basically, your levels are going to drop the longer you're in there, and basically you're not going to have any increases in hemoglobin mass. So what we recommend to our athletes is you get your iron checked before you go in, roughly like 2 to 4 weeks beforehand. So if it's really low, you've got time to build your iron up, and then supplement with iron daily while in the altitude house to promote these adaptations. So intake, some of the cyclists who dropped a lot of body weight didn't have any changes in performance or hemoglobin mass. So basically their body was in a catabolic state, and basically he was trying to just conserve energy and not put it to adapting and producing red blood cells and other adaptations. Injuries, injury and illness, so the people who got sick or injured while they're at altitude, basically inflammation blunts response, so that we weren't seeing increases in these athletes. So staying healthy, not going in injured, and not overtraining, becoming injured become important factors when they're at altitude. And intensity. So back in the early days, everyone just thought, I'll go to altitude and I'm going to train as hard as I can. I'm going to train with the top guys and basically cook myself in the first week. So when that happens, basically your body just shuts down and doesn't respond either. So you've got to be sensible in the intensity and volume of training right at altitude. So these are some critical factors that you should consider when going into an altitude training camp. I'll just summarise these here. So basically, whenever we go to altitude, we want to make sure the athletes are in a really good state. They're fit, ready to go, and respond to the extra stress of altitude. Fatigue levels, we want them low. So sometimes we have them last week, lower intensity just to freshen the athletes up so they're ready to go as soon as they hit altitude. Iron supplementation, we touch it on, but it's a critical factor. If you don't, basically a meta-analysis of a PhD student who's just sort of finished showed that if you didn't take iron at altitude, you didn't improve hemoglobin mass. That was the point of this study. So only the people who were supplementing during the time will have increases in hemoglobin mass. So it just shows the critical nature of iron at altitude. And injury and illness, we touched. Travel, taking that into consideration. And what's the focus of the camp? So that will sort of dictate how long you go, what sort of training you do, what sort of taping you do. So racing, training, competition. So we sort of devised a few different options for coaching athletes to consider. So is a camp an early, mid-season sort of preparation camp where you want to accelerate aerobic capacities, get fit up, sort of set yourself up for the season. This can be done using lift high train low. So a lot of times we would use this camp in sort of the October, November months, sort of set ourselves up for the domestic season. I know Brent used it a lot in January with the altitude house, so 3 to 4 weeks in the altitude house, and then build momentum through the season. The pre-competition competition, so this can be done locally, so Falls Creek, I know a lot of athletes and coaches will go there before the major competition, and sometimes as a top-up during the season. The study we showed at Perisher showed really good performance gains from doing something, a protocol like this. And then you have major competition. So this is usually the international altitude. So in the last 6 years, we've set up a camp in Flagstaff, Arizona, which is 2,100 metres. Brent and Craig have taken the race walkers to Flagstaff, but also St. Moritz. And I know Nick takes his athletes yearly over to Laguna in preparation for these major competitions. So you can see pretty much all this camp, we want at least 3 weeks, up to 4 weeks. Longer than 4 weeks doesn't seem to necessarily give you any other additional effects. Types of altitude we've talked about, the time we've talked about. The travel is critical because if you've got a 35-hour trip to get to Europe, obviously those first few days have to be a little bit lighter just to get over the travel fatigue. The height, the lift high train high venues needs to be considered. So I found really good success from 1,800 to 2,200, so that's sort of like the range I'm looking at when I take athletes to altitude. Facilities is critical, so a lot of the middle distance athletes will need access to a good quality gym. Some people like cross training, so they would like a pool and bike ergos. Good trails is critical. You don't want to go somewhere, I suppose Sierra Nevada is a good example, which I travel to with swimming a lot, and it's really hard running. It's either straight up, straight down the mountain, or you drive down to Grenada to train. Whereas somewhere like Flagstaff has got trails like Canberra, so big pine forest, open trails, on a bit of a plateau, so it's a lot more conducive to running and the weather. So a lot of work in sort of that late 2000 using lift high train low. I was lucky enough to go over to E10 in Kenya at the end of 2011, and basically what I saw is how hard people who've been at altitude for a long time could train at altitude. So I jumped in for 2 weeks and did as much training as I could with the Kenyans, and it was just amazing like how fast they would run in the intervals, how short the recovery periods were. So this to me just showed that how much adaptation you got from that training at altitude, not just necessarily sleeping at altitude. So in 2013 when I started coaching Michael Roger, those were there last night, saw he broke his 4th world record of the year, running 29.24 for the 10K. So this was sort of the start of our journey. So 2013, AIS still had a scholarship program, and I sort of had at my disposal to do what I wanted in the preparation for 2013. And I'd been to Flagstaff in 2001, thought it was the best place to go. just come back from Kenya where I saw how beneficial the training at altitude was, and we had a lot of good advice on how to prepare for a camp. So we decided to go to Flagstaff for 4 weeks. Really good trails, good options to train higher and lower. And basically this is just a training structure that we devised. So basically the first 3 weeks is taper period coming into our national championships. Building back up volume but holding back intensity in those 2 weeks before travelling, so we're fresh and ready. And then building up our training at altitude, so 3 or 4 weeks of really good training, tapering into a couple of races to see what our performance benefits were. Then trying to maximise on our improvements in a 4-week training block in Canberra, and then going into our competition in Lyon, France, where you race to 5,000 and 1,500 metres. What we saw about a 7% increase in hemoglobin mass, probably on the higher end of what we normally see, but really good response. 5.5% increase in relative, so you lost a little bit of weight there, but still increased hemoglobin. 6% increase in VO2 max, 3% increase in lactate threshold, and a 1% in velocity of VO2 max, which is basically your 3K running speed, and about 1% increase in lactate threshold. We also saw a big drop in his time, so this is back in the day when he was just breaking 4 minutes in the 3:45, not an hour, but he had nice solid drops in performance after this period. And he won his first international medal, so basically the preparation period worked, he got in good shape, got good confidence in the racing, and he picked up bronze medals for both the 5,000 and 1,500 metres. So, from 2015 onwards, I took up a PhD student of Miss Sharma, which a lot of you would have come across over the years. And basically his PhD was trying to look at how to optimise training at altitude to maximise performance. So traditionally it's a pretty conservative approach. So basically you go to altitude and you basically spend the whole time building your intensity back up to where you were. Volume comes up a bit quicker, but basically you're training quite conservatively for the first few weeks. In a study we did in 2009 with AIS swimmers, where training didn't really change the whole time at altitude, we didn't really see any changes in performance post. So where we're not sort of doing a good overload and taper, we weren't seeing really any changes in the performance afterwards. So what we did is we had 2 groups. One group stayed in Canberra and Adelaide. I think Adam was involved in this study. So we had a control group who did all the testing, but basically did the normal training for the 4-week period in Australia. And we had another group of, I think, 7 to 9 runners who went to Flagstaff for either 3 or 4 weeks and trained at 2,100 metres. And we specifically designed and individualised our training program to try and maximise the outcome. And Abish quantified it all. And so what we saw was that the group at altitude, so the leading period, you can see a little bit of freshening up in the red group, which is the altitude group, so you're ready for the camp. Quite a big spike, sort of coming off a couple of races of taper, and then sort of maintaining load through that period, and a sharp taper period before the races. Control group increased off the sort of national championship, and then just maintain volume. So volume wasn't much different during the altitude period, so the red and blue lines were pretty much overlaid apart from the taper period. But training low was a lot harder, so for any given volume, athletes are rating the exertion levels a lot higher. So basically they're getting a big increase in training load at altitude by doing the same volume of training. And you see even though there's a big increase in that red line, we're sort of just matching their sort of leading period volume. So we weren't overtraining, and what we saw was a 5% mean increase in hemoglobin mass. So pretty much everyone in the group with good periodized planning improved hemoglobin mass. Performance, so we've got personal best, season best times. The reds are all lifetime best performances. Everyone bar one person improved their PB post-altitude within the first week. So apart from this one guy who ran 800 and didn't compete straight away, everyone had their performance in the first week. It didn't matter if it was day 1, day 2, day 3, day 6, day 7. As long as the race was planned for and the taper was set, we had good performance improvements, and a mean of 3.7%, 1%, and about 4 days was the average. So the next study Abish looked at was following this as domestic season. So we compared the group in Flagstaff with the group in Falls Creek and Perisher, and we we compared the length of time, so either 3 weeks at 2100 or 4 weeks at 2100, and we wanted to have a look at the effect of competition performance and things like that. So you basically is pretty consistent in all the groups that training load increased at altitude, and then they had a big drop in training in that last taper period. So I suppose the take-home message of this is you don't want to be overcooked from altitude training, you want to absorb the training, freshen up, and get ready for the race. So basically on the right there we see basically hemoglobin mass increases pretty linearly with altitude. So 1400 metres compared to 2200 metres, the difference is about 2% compared to 5%. So the higher we go, the more likely we are to have an increase. And basically the 2100 metre group, so I3, I4, we're having more universal PBs after the altitude compared to the domestic groups. We've still had some good results, but universally the higher we went, the better performance results we were having. So I'm just going to talk through some of the training recommendations that I use for my athletes at altitude. So this is the general training structure, I suppose that a lot of middle distance runners use. So we've got to have 3 sessions per week in green, mixture of race pace, threshold and sort of VO2 max type work. We've got a longer run on a Sunday, we've got a medium long run on a Wednesday, and we've got a bunch of shorter aerobic runs depending on the athlete. Some will do a run on Friday, some won't. 2 good strength training, critical part of my middle distance program is trying to become really strong, recruit the right muscles and be robust. So we do 2 really good strength training sessions. So this is our sort of general training period in Australia. Most people know when you're on a training camp, you'd probably rather train mid-morning, have the rest of the day not to think about training, so you've got time to have breakfast, get ready. Most of our training is in the morning, apart from our first session. So this is our first week at altitude. And we try to get into our training structure pretty much as soon as we can. So I run off the plane in the evening, easy run in the morning, a build run to threshold is what I call it. So it's a 10k run where we start off maybe at 4:30 minutes per kilometre, and by the end of it we're trying to hold threshold pace. So the athletes who've been to altitude quite a bit will get down to sort of 310, 320 pace for the male runners by the end of that run, and it's sort of just trying to open up the system to get you ready for the rest of the week. Wednesday the same. We usually move the strength training to Wednesday, Friday, so we're fresh for the Tuesday session, and then we're doing some VO2 max work and race pace work during the end of the week. The only thing we do, so our first timer, we probably won't do that build run to threshold, we'll probably just have a few more days of moderate, and our first session will probably be day 3 or day 4, but the volume of the week is pretty much back to their normal volume done in Australia. So I'm a lot more aggressive than traditional research shows, but we found if we individualise it, it gets trained pretty quick. The results are better. And subsequent weeks, as I said, we've got our three training sessions. I just found that the middle of the week works best, sort of spacing that away from the gym. So that's our high quality track session, threshold on Tuesday, VO2 max hills and longer intervals on Saturday, and the rest of the aerobic running space in between. So probably the last of the studies that we did with Amish was trying to determine what are some of the physiological differences exercising at different altitudes. So we use University of Canberra environmental chamber, and we simulated 1400 metres, 2100 metres and 600 metres. The athletes did a bunch of race pace, threshold and VO2 max sessions at these altitudes, and we had a look at what were the detriments related to training at altitude. So what we were seeing, the running speed for me decreased by as much as 4 to 6%, and the oxygen flux, so those VO2 max threshold sessions, the VO2 max in particular, impacted the most, so 2 to 6% lower when going up 2100 metres. And basically we saw that training load for the same volume going up. All runs are sort of rated 10 to 30% harder for altitude. So basically this gives us scope to modify some of our training. So if our program is a 20 or 30 minute threshold session, we can break this up into something like a 3 by 7 minute threshold with 1 to 2 minute recovery, just to try to increase speed and maintain threshold at the same load. VO2 max type session, so if we're doing some 1k reps, so we're doing 6 by 1k with a minute recovery, at altitude we probably do 2 minute recovery, so increase the time nearly 2-fold just to try and keep that intensity and oxygen flux. Or we can go down lower and basically keep the same or similar recoveries for that given speed. is basically all your low intensity aerobic exercise, stay high or go higher. So in Flagstaff, we had the ability to go to 2,700 metres for some of our easy runs, which we utilise at least once a week. Tempo to threshold, stay high, but probably realise the speed's going to be lower. So heart rate, lactate's probably going to be the same, but you're probably going to run at a lower speed. So just factor that in, don't try to run faster just because that's what you normally run at sea level. VO2 max, if you're going to go low, this is the session to do it. So your K reps, your short rest, 400, your 800 metre top runs, your extended sort of pace runs, go as low as you can. So in Flagstaff, within an hour, we can get down to 900 metres. So if we were going to go low, we'd go down to Cottonwood or Canberra over these sessions. And the anaerobic race pace, so I know a lot of people like going down for these sessions, but there is some anaerobic benefits of training high. So you're getting peak lactates and you're increasing your tolerance. So I think a combination for these sessions, some high, some low, and probably the low option will be closer to the race where you really want a bit of confidence at running a race pace with less effort. And we devised a little bit of a schematic. So basically we've got altitude increasing on the y-axis, and we've got the different types of training on the x-axis. So higher for the low intensity, threshold about the same. As intensity increases, we go lower, and then as we go even higher intensity, we come back higher to get some of those anaerobic adaptations. So we utilised the last 2 years this sort of model for our training. So we tried to go down for our VO2 max type training for some of our race pace. We tried to do some high intensity anaerobic. We sort of mixed up our threshold sessions where we were doing intervals as well as extended bar lengths. And we had really good results. So you can see here, the top left one, that's our 2,700 metre trail up the snowball, some hill reps around Flagstaff, and then a bunch of different tracks. Dion won a gold medal off Flagstaff and London World Championships. Jared got his first international medal in the 1500, and then the subsequent year had another big breakthrough, going probably 5 seconds faster in the 1500. And in 2018, we had some more success using this model. So he bowled in a lot of sort of more aerobic 1500 based training, went 144 straight off the mountain. Lyndon Hall broke the national record, which I mentioned, the first one based on a different altitude study from Lisa Corrigan. Georgia Griffiths nearly broke 2 minutes, so we had a bunch of good performances across the board and pretty universally with a well-structured program. So Julian's already talked a little bit about heat, and Brent's also mentioned some of the stuff we've done and trying to combine the two. So I know Adam's called me a lot and he said, yeah, we need to do altitude because we're getting all these aerobic adaptations and improving performance, but if we're competing in the hot weather, how do we factor heat into our program? So we're seeing some conflicting research. If you do them both the same, maybe you don't adapt. So what we did in 2007, what we were finding, so in the 2000, most of the national championships were up in Brisbane. And our race walkers were really struggling in the 20k event, so they weren't coping with the high heat humidity. Osaka was going to be a very challenging environment. So Brent sort of targeted a lot of the service team, put some ideas together, and we tried to do an approach that we could use with the race walkers leading into the World Championships. So yeah, we set up this tent over the treadmill in the biomechanics lab, and we did 7 weeks before departure, 1 session per week. So that was our plan, just to try and implement a bit of heat over an extended period of time. I remember the first session, Jared went into the heat tent and basically, I want to go fast, I want to go fast. We were trying to keep it conservative. I think he made 30 minutes of the hour and he couldn't finish. So the next session, he put the speed down. And so yeah, basically it hits you really hard when you're coming from an unacclimatized state, that first session of the heat. But basically you have a series of adaptations that Julian has presented very well by doing progressive heat acclimation. So we ramped up the speed of running. By the end of it, Brent was saying that we were doing 1k at 1500 metre interval sessions, so trying to simulate those race pace speeds. And then we did a 10-day acclimatisation period in Kochi before the World Championships. And Jared ended up getting DQ, but it was his best performance ever in the heat, so he's right up to the lead guys. Competing at a very high level. So we used pretty much exactly the same protocol before the 2008 Olympics in Beijing. So 7 weeks prior, we did 1 or 2 sessions per week. So we started off with 1, but by the end we were building up to 2 sessions per a week. So maybe in total we got 10 to 15 sessions in the heat in that 7-week period. And all this was done in the prelude stage to go to altitude. So we're getting some heat acclimation, trying to get rid of some of that initial stress of competing in the heat before we went into the altitude house. And then the last 3 weeks of that 7 weeks was done in the altitude chamber prior to departure. So that's how we try to combine the two. So trying to decrease the overall stress of the heat acclimation by only doing one session of building, and then having the altitude at the end, and then the acclimatisation in the environment at the end. So in 2011, I think Craig and Brent both touched on this. Brent decided he wanted to continue using the heat acclimation but in St. Moritz. So we're basically out of our controlled environment AIS where we can adjust the temperature in our tent. So he bought a bunch of treadmills, a bunch of heaters, set up in the garage, his own heat chamber, and we tried to do the same sort of protocol. So 2 sessions a week for the whole time in there. We had done some pre-work at the AIS to build them up, so 3 or 4 weeks where they did the 1 session a week just building up some of their acclimation, and then they had 2 sessions a week where they did high intensity, or not high intensity, high humidity and heat sessions while at altitude. So we've got some pretty interesting results from this. So we tested everyone, hemoglobin mass pre and post. We did a 10-minute performance test at laboratory conditions of 20 degrees and also at 32 degrees. So we did 2 tests, one in the heat, one in the cool. And all the subjects acted as their own control. So they did a controlled period where they were just training in the cold months of Canberra with no heat acclimation. And then the next period they did the 2 sessions a week in St. Moritz. And what we saw was with no heat acclimation in the heat, they got 2.5% worse. So if you're training in Canberra where it's cold and you've got no exposure to heat, and then you try to compete in the heat, you're 2.5% worse than you were beforehand. With heat acclimation, we're about 2% better. So in the heat, we're 2.5% better. In the controlled conditions, we were 3% better using the heat. So we're getting some adaptations from the heat combined with altitude, so it's not heat alone. So some of the hemoglobin mass of that 5% improvement is, and the 5.4% VO2 max is going into that thermoneutral performance. But the big take-home lesson is you can't prepare for hot conditions in Australia winter. You need some sort of heat acclimation and hopefully altitude as well. So basically, we don't want to use heat at the expense of altitude. We've seen the benefits of improving these capacities, so this is how we try to factor it together. So 11 World Championships and 12 Olympics in London, we use this sort of protocol. So utilising a combination of the altitude house, red bow, and the heat room, we've prepared our athletes well for both of these competitions. So Julian touched on this study, but a few other points that I'll just sort of go on is what we tried in this study is to try to do a really condensed heat acclimation protocol. See if using altitude house at 14 hours a day, 3 weeks, gave us some additional benefits. So Julian presented the different mechanisms. So one, plasma volume expansion, one hemoglobin mass expansion. Do these complement each other in 3K time trial performance in runners. So the training we set up was pretty intense. So 3 weeks, 3 sessions a week, and sort of that training model I showed before. So the VO2 max and threshold session were done in the heat. So we can see 4 by 5 minutes, 90-second recovery, 8 by 90 seconds on, at a 6% gradient. So we're trying to replicate a high intensity fuel session. 6 by 3 minutes, 12 by a minute on with a minute off, 2 by 10 minute threshold, a fartlek pyramid session, and some sort of steady state runs during it. So we're trying to really see if high intensity training in the heat over a short period gave benefits for one, and then whether combining 14 hours a day for 3 weeks at 3,000 metres gave us some additional benefits. So I was a subject, all my athletes did the study, and I remember that first session nearly killed us. So 5-minute efforts trying to keep the same speed as sea level. So normally we'd probably run a 3-minute pace at that type of session. Like we were barely holding 320s, and by the end, like just finishing. So that first session really knocks you around. I remember Rose was rating his warm net as 10, going about 8 k's an hour by the end. So really hard, but every session got better. So just like Julian was saying, it's a very quick process. So by doing this sort of 3 times a week, by the end we were nearly hitting sea level speeds, so or thermoneutral speeds. What we saw was the improvement in performance in 3K time trial and the heat group. No change in the hot and high, we call it, so that altitude house in the heat, and no change in control. So our control conditions was we had a treadmill set up outside the medicine area, so they were trained in the normal Canberra conditions of whatever it is, 5 to 10 degrees during the day. So they had no improvement. We did have an increase in hemoglobin mass in the group in the altitude house, but this didn't translate into a performance improvement. And our theory behind this was the stress of both of them together was just too much. So a lot of these guys hadn't been in the altitude house before, and they're hammering themselves in the heat chamber 3 times a week. So the combination of those two really flattened them, and they basically weren't able to manifest this increase in aerobic capacity or plasma volume change in the time trial performance. So, and that's sort of, I suppose, when you're focusing, trying to separate those sort of high intensity periods, so maybe doing the heat before the altitude like we did with the race walkers. So just some take-home messages that I've got from this presentation is be well prepared. Don't just go to altitude and think you're going to get benefits. So if you're not in a good fitness state, if you're not fresh, if you get injured, sick, you don't take iron, you lose a lot of weight, all these factors will go into a null or unoptimal response. The importance of a taper. So the taper becomes critical if you want to race straight off altitude. So basically, if you train hard for 4 weeks at altitude, you probably roll the dice if you come down and try to race in the next few weeks. Some will be good, some will be bad. You build up a lot of fatigue. But if you can dissipate that with a well-structured taper in the last week at altitude, we found that we can race well straight away. So from 1 day to up to 6 weeks, and basically the 6th week is that training, and so whether how you structure your altitude training camp for a major competition. So you either want to go within that 3-week window, or you want to come back and get some real good training adaptations. And a lot of our research shows that every time you go to altitude, it just becomes a bit easier. You can train a bit harder, and the results sometimes are even better. So that multiple exposure during a career is critical. I like to try and get at least 2 camps a year, sometimes 3 if you've got time, but I'd say a minimum of once every year for your high-level athletes once you sort of start using altitude training. And the ability to combine heat and altitude together. So the last slide I was going to talk about a bit is how I'm going to prepare for the next 2 major championships for my athletes, or some of the thoughts I've got, how I'm going to prepare. So basically both Dubai, I've got a picture of here, but Doha as well. So the Para World Championships are in Dubai, the able body in Doha, and then both are in Tokyo in 2020. So both environments are going to be very hot, and both environments are going to be very humid as well. So how do we prepare the athletes using our continual altitude use, because that's built a lot of capacity over the years, so we're going to picture with that, but also use our heat acclimation. So a few thoughts I've had. So working backwards, Tokyo, I like to go to Flagstaff. It's a comfortable environment, it's great for running. We've always had good performance results. The flight from the west coast of the US to Japan is quite good. It's not too much of a drama, so that's where I'm looking at. But the flight from Flagstaff to Doha or Dubai is very hard, so you sort of have to go through Europe, and it's sort of quite not as ideal. So I'm looking at the weather, probably not as conducive. So I'm looking at options, and I sort of was looking at a place in the Canary Islands called Tenerife. It's got some good sporting facilities, very hot all year round. So obviously when we're getting into those sort of September, October period, like Europe cools down. So going to somewhere like St. Moritz or Font Remo won't be as hot. So I'm looking for somewhere that does have the heat option as well. And talking to one of our lead cyclists the other day, Chloe Hoskins, she said, oh yeah, there's great altitude training on Tenerife. They've got altitude training menu at 2,100 metres, lots of good walking trails, great for cycling, a couple of houses, hotel, and it's about 40-45-minute drive down to the coastal sporting centre. So this could be a perfect option where we're getting some altitude training, 3 or 4 weeks, dropping down once or twice a week to get some real hot weather training, and then maybe the last 7 to 10 days before we go into Doha or Dubai, just getting some heat acclimatisation. An environment similar, but probably not going to cook them as much as going into a 37-degree, 60% humidity environment, which I found in 2015. Like the longer you spend in Doha, where the training wasn't great, and the conditions were pretty oppressive flat for some of the athletes, so that's sort of my thinking around how to prepare. If that works really well, then trying to use the same model leading into Tokyo, using sort of an environment that we're familiar with. That time of year play starts being nice and warm. Phoenix is obviously up around 40 degrees most days at that time. A bit more of a dry heat, but still some good adaptation to have. Within an hour, you can get down to places at around 900,000 metres. So, yeah, so just a bit of a guide on where we sort of use a lot of our knowledge from research at the AIS to try and provide practical recommendations to the athletes going forward. So, I'll leave it there and open up to any questions that anyone's got. Yeah. Yeah, altitude temps are all out. So in the early days, I don't think they were quite as good. They were pretty enclosed, they built up a lot of humidity, they were noisy. I think the CO2 levels got quite high. So some of the initial ones weren't as good, whereas some of the more recent temps were bigger, more airflow, temperature not as high. I think they're a lot better. So we did a bunch of studies trying to test effectiveness of altitude temps. So one way they hit the altitude, they said what the temperature was, what the CO2 levels were. And all the new temps stack up pretty well. So I suppose the only thing with temps is spending 14 hours a day is hard. Altitude house is a lot easier where you've got sort of your room. So a lot of people use temps and get really good results. I haven't used temps a lot with these athletes. I've utilised them a bit. The race walks are using a bit, they've taken them up to threshold. So threshold is 1400 metres, but the temps allow you to sleep even higher. So I sleep at 3000 metres and I train at 1400 metres. So yeah, they're a lot better. I think that's something you want to be still well planned. I know a lot of athletes get a 10 just train them up as high as they go, so 4 or 5000 metres and then try to stay in them for 3 months and just fatigue themselves. So I still think you want to have a well-structured plan with the 10. 3 to 4 weeks, 3000 metres. Remembering that the setting of 3000 metres in Melbourne is different than Falls Creek, because it's regular altitude. I think athletes